What is going on, Hive Warriors? So today we're going to talk about how you can reduce belly fat easy using intermittent fasting. These have been shown by studies to work. Now, a few caveats before we actually dive into it. You have to take into account that you cannot specifically target subcutaneous belly fat, nor can you target subcutaneous any fat around your body. All of the fat that you'll be targeting in terms of the subcutaneous fat will be at a random selection, unfortunately. And what is subcutaneous fat? It is the fat that's right beneath the skin. It is the fat that you can actually grab, the thing that you can jiggle. That is your subcutaneous fat, the fat you see on your face, your arms, your legs, what have you, and of course your lower belly region. However, you can reduce actively and proactively. You can reduce visceral fat. Place that carries visceral fat is, believe it or not, your belly region, because that contains all of the fat around the organs. The majority of your organs are around your belly region. Now, how do you reduce this? If you apply an intermittent fasting system, now it doesn't have to be a crazy one. You don't have to do 48 hours or 72 hours of fasting. You could do a 16-8 fasting system or a 20-hour fasting, 4-hour eating window and still tap into this. The reason that fasting helps is because studies have shown that fasting actually helps create a system called white adipose browning. And what does white adipose browning mean? It takes some white adipose tissue and then turns it into brown adipose tissue. And why is that important? Because brown adipose tissue is ready to burn. It is easy to burn with activity, while white adipose tissue not so much. Now, you have to deal with a few things too in order to get this over the hump so that you can reduce your belly fat easily. One thing you have to understand is beta fat cells and alpha fat cells. There tends to be more beta fat cells in the stomach region, leg region, for women, thigh region, than there is in other parts of your body, for example, your arm and your face, which is why you will notice that your face and your arms reduce fat much quicker than your belly region, because of that discrepancy between beta fat cells and alpha fat cells. Alpha fat cells are much easier to burn, beta fat cells are much harder to burn. So keep that in mind for a little bit later on in this video. Now, how do you reduce the stomach through the visceral fat reduction? Keep in mind, even though you may not be able to specifically target belly fat in terms of the subcutaneous, as we mentioned, you still can reduce the stomach volume because the visceral fat is pushing your stomach out as it's clumping on top of all of your organs. But because it's more brown adipose tissue and any of the white adipose tissue, they're easily transformed into brown adipose tissue if you do intermittent fasting, if you interject the system of fasting. You have to apply cardio workouts, because it's the activity, it's the cardio activity that actually helps burn the brown adipose tissue. A perfect example is one of the video essays that I did here on this channel talking about sumo wrestlers and why when they're active, they're actually very, very healthy. Of course, after they retire, they end up not reducing body fat and visceral fat rushes in. But a lot of sumo wrestlers have been examined to see why their metabolic health numbers are always healthy. And through the examination, they noticed that they had no visceral fat, little to no visceral fat. Everything they were carrying was subcutaneous fat. And the visceral fat is the dangerous fat as well. It's the fat that causes all of the problems. So all they had was the fat under the skin, not the fat around the organs or in their arteries or what have you. So this is how they maintain metabolic health while being overweight, because they train aggressively every single day for competition, but they also overeat to maintain subcutaneous fat. So what you need to do is to ensure that you're reducing that visceral fat by doing activity training. If you add activity training, all of the brown adipose tissue will burn to apply energy for you to be able to do all that stuff. And if you use intermittent fasting, any bit that's white adipose tissue will go through the process of white adipose browning so that as well could be burned. And over time, you will start to see a reduction in belly fat as the volume of your belly starts to go down when visceral fat drops. Now, what do you do about the subcutaneous fat? Remember I mentioned beta fat cells and alpha fat cells. If you understand how adipocytes or fat cells work, they're not necessarily the fat. They're just the chamber that holds the fat. So when the fat is needed for energy, or to be used as ketones to be transformed and brought into the liver to be transformed if you're doing fasting. If you're fasting and your body needs the ketose and your body needs to go into ketosis, what happens is the triglycerides come out of it, the fatty acids come out of it, and the fat cell shrinks, but it's still there, waiting for more fatty acids to come in or triglycerides to come in to expand it. And basically fat is just a bunch of expanded fat cells. Now, beta fat cells are super stubborn. They don't want to release their triglycerides, but alpha fat cells are easy. They want to release their triglycerides all the time. So beta fat cells and alpha fat cells kind of work together. Since they want to release and be the energy supporter, they don't have to release. So they both get to do what they want to do. But that's not good for you if you want to lose belly fat. Your belly tends to contain mostly beta fat cells. So your face might reduce first because there's more alpha fat cells in your face and more beta fat cells in your stomach versus alpha fat cells. So your stomach will feel like it's moving much slower. The only option you have is to try to get to as low body fat percentage as you possibly can. Usually around 10% body fat, 12% body fat. You'll start to see that your stomach has reduced substantially, where you could see abs and stuff like that. Unfortunately, when it comes to subcutaneous fat, you can't target it. So this is the only way, continuing your diet, because people fall off the diet normally before they get to those points where they're starting to see the belly fat reduce substantially. But keep in mind, you still could reduce the volume of your belly easy with intermittent fasting to create that white adipose browning and physical activity to burn the brown adipose tissue. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. And if you want to learn how to lose weight super fast, 30 pounds in 30 days, you can go ahead and click this video right here and it'll take you to my breakdown where I help you lose weight really, really fast. And hopefully get you ready for the summer. Until the next one, guys, peace out.